listening to the Delusion Rehab podcast. My name is Lauren, and if this is the first delusion you're jumping into, you picked a very interesting one. You picked one that I've been saving just for you, and it is all about cringe. But before we jump into it, wanted to officially announce that this is the last episode of the first season of the Delusion Rehab podcast. It's been a really great run to start off the spring of 2025 with this. We're headed right into the summer. I am recording this on Memorial Day itself. And I'm going to take the summer to be working on a lot of things that are going to come your way. It's going to benefit my team, but it's also going to benefit those that I work with. And I'm not going to ghost to the pod in its entirety. If I know me well enough, I'm probably going to want to throw a surprise pod episode out there. But we are officially closed on the first season of the podcast today. So thank you if you have listened to any of these episodes. This has truly been such a passion project of mine that has come forth in ways I didn't anticipate it to. It's actually kind of going to be talked about in the episode today. So I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. But thank you very much for all that you do in supporting and listening to this pod. So if you skipped this pod previously because you saw that the title was Cringe Factor, I understand. Cringe is cringy itself. We don't even want to own the title of being cringy. We don't want to witness cringe. We got to define cringe for sure. But I believe that the delusion that we're all suffering is that it was not worth starting something if it's going to be cringy. Have you Googled what cringe means lately? It's got a lot of definitions. It's got a lot of theories around it. The ones that seem to stick the most are related to having an inward shiver of embarrassment or disgust, a feeling that the witnessed activity is too hard to look at. I didn't understand why this phenomenon existed, which is part of why I wanted to create this episode. And when you look at the theories out there, it's awesome to see what this is really about. One of the theories, which I feel is pretty accurate, is that we've socially adopted this practice of becoming so cohesive in the way that we are in society, and we want to build relationship with each other by sharing in each other's feelings, by saying, oh no, we would never do what that person's doing. That person is doing something completely unacceptable in social terms, and I want others in my camp, so I'm going to look at other people and I'm going to cringe at that thing with those people. And it's interesting because it really does build kind of a camaraderie amongst those that are, within a group. Um, I remember being in choirs where we'd sing solos to try out for the solo of that song. And I have to be honest with you, there were times where it just was not the solo for me, and it was just not the solo for someone else. And so when we would get up there and sing it, I could notice that there was like some tense feelings and some awkward vibes from people listening in on it. And I felt bad for the people that I cringed over. I felt bad for myself if I was the one being cringed over. No one wants to feel that way. Personally, I can't even be in the same room as a lot of cringy moments. I once hung up on a meeting, and it was not even that long ago, that the silence of no one speaking on this meeting, I was like, I can't do it. Like after almost like a full minute of silence, I'm like, I don't even want to speak up and be the one to interject. And I hung up. And I can't give an excuse to that other than that's a highly sensitive thing for me. I was just noticing also when I was researching that people with higher sensitivity levels, of which I have um, put myself in that position socially because of what I've come to know about ADHD and Tourette's syndrome. There's a lot of not only emotional sensitivity, but physical sensitivity involved in that. And when the room tension feels different and when the emotional cues have changed, I feel like I have to leave the room. I have to get away from the conversation and shake the juju off. It's like very unbearable. If you talk to my husband, he will watch cringe compilation videos on YouTube. I don't understand that at all. And I tell him that frequently. He will look up a cringe compilation. Essentially, it could be anything. It could be people butchering solos. It could be someone, asking someone to prom in a really elaborate way and getting rejected. Usually, it's a social rejection of some type, and it is hard to watch. But then, for some reason, David likes to watch it. I don't know. I think I have to talk to him more about it. Maybe he'll listen to the pod and think more about why he likes it. It's just it gives some people entertainment, which is why reality shows focus in on the cringy moments, which is why cringy moments are built into the different TV series and movies that we watch, because it really is something that gives us a lot of trial and error in knowing what we can accept, what we can handle emotionally, and what we can't. In fact, one of the most famous episodes of The Office is known for its cringe factor and the fact that many people cannot watch it. And David and I have very often skipped this episode. It's called Scott's Tots. And it recalls back to a promise that Michael Scott made to an entire class of fifth graders that he would pay for their college tuition if they graduated. And obviously, it got to be 7 years later, and they all were ready to graduate, and he was unable to fulfill that promise, and he has to face all of these kids and teachers after rescheduling umpteen times. And it's the worst thing to watch in the world, even though it's a show, even though it's a scripted moment. It's too hard to watch. The humor of the episode just does not overtake the cringe of the episode to have it worth watching. And you think about those things and you wonder, has society really gotten us to a point where we feel like we cannot do anything ever that would be perceived as embarrassing, awkward, or have a negative social cue attached to it? Avoid it at all cost. It's almost as if we're saying, I'd rather be remembered for anything in this world other than being embarrassing. Is that you today? Are you saying, I feel like I'd rather not be embarrassed or awkward than live out some type of experience or pursuit or dream or passion that's always been in me, because I'm afraid of what that rejection socially could look like for me? I could go down a whole rabbit hole of all the embarrassment I've sought to avoid in this life. I'm going to take a look specifically today about the inner battles that I've just been coming off of, and the inner battle that I'm even in the midst of now that I'll be honest in sharing with you today. So let's just start with this podcast, for example. And I've talked about it in a couple episodes that I struggled to even get this pod going. I probably had a desire to do this for 3 years or so. I witnessed my husband start with his podcast, What's on Tap, talking all about sports and going into some real deep dives of rankings and scenarios. Very tangible for the, sports enthusiast. For me, I wasn't even sure what kind of podcast I'd want. I've always been to health and wellness, but I just wasn't sure what was really something I'm focused and working on every day, until it became clear to me that I am fighting delusions every day to try to live in a better mental state and to try to live outside of fear and live inside of purpose instead. So, because I know that cringe is built off awkwardness, um, I looked for a lot of warnings about why I wouldn't want to do this. And I even teased a couple years ago that I wanted to start a podcast, and, asking people on Instagram, what topics would you want to hear about from me, or what questions do you want addressed? I had so many people supportive to just say, yes, you would be an awesome podcast host. And I only had a handful of people that gave me negative feedback, but of course I listened to them the most, right? Of course I didn't give the positive feedback the time of day. I just listened to the negative warning signs and red flags. And most of the flags went something like this: well, who's going to listen to you? Everyone's doing a podcast nowadays. Nothing's very original anymore. What makes you good enough, smart enough, interesting enough, worthy enough to be a podcast worth listening to? You have to advertise, you have to, do all of these hoop jumps just to get somewhere. And it honestly held me captive for a couple years because I thought, yeah, like even if I wanted to do this, they're kind of right. What makes me so special? I don't have any degrees in mental health. I'm not a doctor. I don't have decades of experience. I'm 33. So what makes me anyone worth listening to? And this is what I wanted to draw down here is it came down to a couple key actions that did need to happen before I was able to get myself into a state of mind to build a podcast and have the branding that it is. I had to get past the cringe by putting my purpose over my image. You know, I have always sought taking my purpose and encouraging others, supporting progress. I took a course actually about purpose and what I could cling to in terms of a mission statement for my own self. And my mission statement at the end of about 6 or 8 weeks came down to that I exist on this earth to support progress. And I love that so much. You could see it when I was in a full blown Beachbody coach mode. You could see it when I was tutoring in college. You could see it when I was mentoring people that were upcoming in my career and leading youth group and all these different avenues that, again, they're not one particular assignment, but it's all built towards one purpose. And when I realized that I would rather be known for what my purpose was in life than what I looked like, what I sounded like, what I acted like, or any one thing that was embarrassing. I'm like, no, I know in the end the purpose will win. And that's what I want to focus on. I also made sure that I was taking small steps towards the process instead of large leaps. There was a night that I remember coming up with the art for the podcast tile. I remember there were days I was brainstorming what I was going to call this podcast when I finally landed on Delusion Rehab and I freaking loved it. Um, even just coming up with certain topics and certain life experiences that I know have value to them and intrinsically, meditating on them so that I could come to build content that would make sense to the listener. But what I did not do was immediately come out swinging and have 10,000 subscribers all at one time. I'm not really in it for the listener count. I'm just not. It's a bit about the image in that way, right? If I was all about, oh, I have 10,000 this and I have, 50,000 people commenting on it and I have this Instagram following for this, it really isn't about who and how many people are following. It's about, are the people that listen to it having value come through to them? Do they feel that it's important that they decided to listen to this podcast more than something else because they were going to get value from this, whereas they might have ruminated on the past or been upset about the past, not willing to accept it? Well, then they chose a better option, a better spot to put their mind, and that's what I hope that this is becoming too. And the greatest thing that I'd say applies to any moment of cringe that you're concerned about stepping into, perhaps, there has to be a tolerance level for discomfort. I was reading a evaluation that I had been given in 4th grade. They had, in my school, predicted that I might be in the gifted program, which, yes, maybe is a little bit of a kudos to myself by saying that, except that I was tested for that group 2 different times. I think the first one was in 1st grade and the second one was in 4th. I didn't get into that group either time. And one of the notes in that evaluation said that I did not have a high tolerance for the frustration of the task assigned to me that they were testing me on. And it was humbling to read it because I thought, okay, well, I mean, I'm going to be nice to that fourth grade girl who simply just did not want to do another thing when she was trying so hard and felt like being in a timed environment was not going to be conducive for me. But it did make me think about the fact that there are periods of life in which we want to grow, and yet we still find that we can't tolerate the level of discomfort that comes with it. Every therapist that I've talked to has used this phrase in some way, either literally or, some type of summary, that there has to be a sitting with the discomfort involved in the growth. It feels like you're going backwards, and I understand that. I think that when I put myself out here for this pod, I thought this feels like I'm going the opposite way. People are going to lose respect for me. And I'm just being honest. That's the stuff that goes through my head when I was going to be putting this out. And instead, I've turned to a place of saying, no, I want to build a library of content of things that have been so lesson driven in my life, you know, things that I don't necessarily look back and think those were blessings, but I also don't look back at them and think they were curses. I think that there was purpose in the madness. And so building a tolerance of discomfort and even having to edit these pods after to just accept myself for who I am, accept the voice God's given me, to accept the experiences that my life has shaped me to. That's been all very integral in my story. And it certainly put my purpose above my image in being worried about making this pod and perhaps experiencing some cringe. So, moving on to a more current example that you may have seen on Instagram in the last couple days. I took the jump into hip hop classes. Okay, hear me out. For the longest time, I have listened to different songs probably in the last 15 years or so and thought like I could really imagine myself like being in a music video to one of these things. Perhaps it's my daydreaming, perhaps it's my wishful thinking of, man, that would be so cool if I could do something like that. Now, I think behind all of this thought of hip hop and being able to do these cool dance moves and have this routine down, it's the confidence. It is. It's the ability to have seen something, accomplished it, and have stood in it and fully own it and take pride in it. I don't have many moments that I give myself a moment of pride for because I'm always looking at someone that seems better than me in that area, or I'm always seeing like how awkward it must be for someone like me in my stature. I'm a 5'1" female white girl that showed up to, a big company, Fortune 500, and is working alongside, finance trust fund 6'5" blue-eyed guys. And it's too much for me at times to feel comfortable enough to put myself out there. So good old Reddit, I went down that rabbit hole a couple days ago, and it showed locations in Connecticut that had beginner hip hop classes. And I found one in a nearby town, not too far away, that had a solid Instagram account, good media exposure, seemed like something that I was able to feel comfortable enough to try. It's $20, it's a drop in class. By no means is it impossible. And it's listed as beginner level with the phrase no experience required listed in the description. Now, you'd think that would be enough to say, okay, well, why wouldn't I go for it? Because I think of all of the people that may be there, that may look at me or may get frustrated that the instructor's got to come fix something with me, or, it's coming from a past of being in some extracurricular activities in public school that were just not my forte, truly trying something to find that I don't like it, but it was something I at least wanted to try, and the people around me were, like, frustrated and cringing for me that I didn't have maybe the physical ability if it was a sport, or maybe I didn't have the musical ability that they were looking for. So I was projecting those past experiences onto the current one and saying, "I don't know if I can do this, like, I'm really nervous." So, how did I even get past that? Because we are pursuing this. I am not just saying it just to say it. I bit the bullet first, and I did the action even when the emotion didn't line up. And I signed up for a class that is going to be in 2 days. So if you're hearing this the day it launches, then I'm doing it tomorrow. Send a prayer my way. Um, Truly, I am excited because I'm in a period of life where I feel like I can kind of learn more about who I am, uh, take time to discover maybe interests I didn't know I have, and learn more about what makes me tick. There's a bit of a backstory here too. I have been using Beachbody, now called Body, for my online home workouts. And there's a routine that I had not tried before that was called Size, Cize. And it was a beginner hip hop format. You would learn a routine, maybe 8 to 10 moves to build up in the course of 30 to 40 minutes in the privacy of your own home. And I've never done it because for some reason, I wasn't even sure that I could have enough coordination to do something like that in the privacy of my own home. Like, have you ever made yourself cringe? Because that's the worst possible feeling is like, oh God, Laura, what are you doing? So, in the last week or so, I have put some of those classes on and I have been learning the routines. And if you saw on Instagram that I posted not only in a main post, but in my stories that I am in fact trying this and it looks choppy and it definitely looks beginner, but it is a start. And I wanted to make sure people understood whether they were listening to this or they were just passing through my Instagram account. It's so important to know that beginners have been that way from the beginning. Let me explain. No master has gotten to the place they've been without being at a beginner level. It's not to say that there's never talent involved. You know, we know about some of the professionals and the greats and the legends who had this amazing talent backing them. But many of them also know that they could not get to where they wanted to be unless they put in the work, put in the reps, put in the time, put in the effort, the practice, and really fine tuned their skills and their unique qualities to have them stand out. So I can't walk into anything that I want to pursue and expect any type of natural talent to exist. Honestly, if I had natural talent in any of these areas, I would have likely known about it already. And people have told me that certain things are more natural for me, but it doesn't always mean that that's the thing they're most interested in. So, yes, I've been posting those videos. I've been trying some of them out. It has helped me feel a little bit more prepared for whatever Wednesday's class holds. But I also posted those videos for more than just showing that you could do hip hop at home. I posted them because I wanted to build in some exposure therapy for myself. I love this phrase, exposure therapy. I've been using this tactic in other areas of my life where I will expose myself to an imperfection on purpose. I'll type an email, I'll go to reread it, I'll see the tiniest typo. And of course, I'll want to go fix it. And a couple times a week, I will leave the typo there. As long as it is not majorly changing the communication of what I'm trying to say and it's just a grammar error, something's not capitalized, I let it go through because it is freeing to be able to send a mistake through knowing it's a mistake versus sending something that you think is perfect out and then later coming across the mistake and thinking, gosh, I'm such an idiot for that. When you expose yourself purposefully to uncomfortable situations, it does build resilience and grit. I can't say that I'm the most resilient or have the most grit in a lot of situations, but I have found myself to be in a place of getting better at that by practicing being uncomfortable. I'm going to quote Autumn Calabrese again. She's my favorite workout trainer, but she uses the phrase get comfortable being uncomfortable. Live in the discomfort. The discomfort is where the growth's going to happen. And I've been trying my best to embrace that lately. So let me tell you guys about what I'm pursuing next that has me kind of walking on eggshells in terms of how I want to approach it, because I know that the concept of cringe is sitting on the back burner, waiting to pounce on my passion and get me off track. I am interested in pursuing some type of educational specialty or certification. We're in the season of graduation parties. I just came from one today, actually. And the most common fear that exists in those is that you would walk into the real world without a lot of expectation that you will walk into something that you're actually going to love. Um, you don't have a set structure or schedule or set of to dos. It's all up to you. You have a degree now. You may or may not have a job lined up right when you get out. You might or might not have a living situation. You might want to take a year for a break, which I know can be very cathartic when you're trying to learn what you want in life. I think 2020 became all of our break for learning what we wanted in our life because a lot of changes and a lot of pivots happened, and it wasn't for the worst. In many cases it seemed like it went for the better. So 2014, I'm graduating college. I had a double major bachelor's in accounting and finance, an economics minor. In 2017 to 19, I went for a master's degree in supply chain, but I was still seeking a niche, whichever way you say it. And I wanted to be intentional about where this career is going. Supply chain is so large in its scope, and it can affect any industry and any part of the world that it is involved with. So there's unlimited options here. But the problem with the passion that I have, even though I haven't openly shared it with a lot of people, is that the topic just seems to be getting a lot of heat about wanting to fine tune your career or change your career or apply for jobs or, you know, settle with the fact you might not retire until you're 80 years old or that you want to retire early. Like there are so many things that go into career decisions right now that feel so pressuring. AI tech is stirring up fear. When people pay for education, they have a lot of opinions on whether or not it's worthy to put more money and more debt into the system with all these hardworking people that just work to pay off the debt of what their knowledge has gotten them. It's a vicious cycle. And when you hear all that noise, it's easy to hear those opinions and say, okay, maybe it is a waste of time, or maybe it isn't the best move for this economy, or maybe it isn't an industry that I should be in. Um, but here's a reality though. It's a journey for you. If I go after a cert that others around me think is going to be a cringy move, like a huge life mistake, would I be able to stand firm in knowing what my purpose and passion is to carry that out? I think we put a lot of emphasis on money and stature and position and whatever set of letters we want at the end of our name because it gives us more worth, if you want to call it that. We place way too much on that and not enough on whether we feel happy, joyful, purposed, and at peace with ourselves because we are focusing on something that we want for ourselves. And I have to get past the point of feeling worried that I'm going to jump into something I shouldn't jump into. I talked before about jumping into trying to get a CPA. Tried that for a couple years, put it right the heck down. I'm glad now, knowing that I have had ADHD, that that might have played a big role in it. But at the same time, I'm also glad I didn't sink my whole life into that decision. There's got to be a balance of it. But it would be more regretful for me to never have went after the thing that's been on my heart. So I'm on the pursuit of looking for different certifications and perhaps getting some more fine-tuned education. And I'm excited for it. It's more than just a hobby or a career for me. It's a true interest. And so I got to turn the noise down on the people that have only negative things to say and turn the noise up, especially in my own mind and my own soul of, if this is where my heart is, this is where I need to be placing my energy and my time. It's okay to be a beginner. No master ever started out that way, as we shared. And even if you do have natural talent, you're going to have a floor of your ability, right? And you're still going to aim for a ceiling that's out of the distance. It's waiting to be achieved. You know you've got to aim for it, but you have to sit with the idea of being okay that it's a beginner relationship with whatever you're interested in. We all had to learn how to count the alphabet, count the alphabet, count the numbers 1 through 100, I should say, and sing the song to teach us the alphabet. We all had to do that. We don't think twice about writing an email, writing a letter, sending a text. Those things are so second nature now. But there was a time when we had to learn what the letter A was and the letter B and the number 2 and the number 3. Like, we had to understand that first as a baseline. No one has it together. And while it never feels comfy, like how I posted my dance routine on social media, that would certainly be cringy to somebody out there, it was inspiring to people. And I think that the greatest risk in a cringy situation is you're giving someone else the courage to live in their purpose and choose to reject the narrative of their fears instead of being worried about any self image that might take a hit in your ego because you've chosen to do something for somebody else instead of yourself. So I've got some beautiful songs for us this week. The first one's called Amazing Grace. It's the Heights remix by Hyperfenton. Very catchy song with the notion that our life is so precious and to waste it because we don't want to look a certain way or be a certain thing, it's just going to be the downfall that will set us up for failure. Because failure is not messing up and starting again, failure is deciding to quit. That's the difference. You can have a misstep and have it end up becoming a redirection and a refocus and a realignment, which is exactly what you need. Quitting, it takes your eyes off the prize. So this song is all about pushing past those lies, pushing past the fears of regret to live life any other way than who you were meant to be, to live a purpose-filled life. And like I said, it's so catchy. Even if you don't feel the message from it right away, it has you remembering that you're given the grace to wake up each day and know you're not done because you've woken up and you have more in your purpose to achieve. And the second song is called Hold the Line, featuring Arizona by Avicii. As much of an Avicii fan as I am, I don't know why it took me so long to find this song. I think this song's been out for like 6 years or so. It was right around the time of his passing. And ironically, this song is about the feeling of doing something scary, intense because you have inner strength for it. So it's coming from the place of you're standing on the battlefield, you're on the front line, you have the moment in front of you to go after something. And the cringiest thing in a real war would be to step over that front line by 1 or 2 steps and be shot down immediately, to be ready to charge after it and to be struck down. And the metaphor here is that being on a battlefield on the front line is always a scary, intense moment. but no one would ever do it if they didn't have an inner purpose or an inner strength in them to get them there. So, like I said, I sing this song from a place of it's not easy. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to challenge what my purpose actually is. Because if I decide that, oh, maybe my purpose isn't all that worth it, then is it really my purpose? Is that really what I was meant to contribute to this world? Or is it what I think people want from me? That's something you have to think for yourself on. But either way, the inner strength in you by saying, God, use me. I have these gifts that you've given, and I have these people and these places and these things that I'm around, and I'd like to be used here. There will be strength built in you for you to accomplish those things because your purpose cannot be taken from you unless you take it from yourself. All right. I hope you enjoyed the end of the first season of the Delusion Rehab podcast. Like, subscribe, send me comments. I cannot wait to hear how all of you feel about this podcast over the summer. And we will see you in September.